band, don't you? Hey boss, very much time left, is there? No. We ain't got long to go, no. Now this is my favorite part of this song. Listen to the words very carefully. You really choked in a reach of fucking me. Our emotion couldn't be the same. Oh yeah! Back over.
Welcome to the Friends of Dan Music Podcast. I'm Dan Miles. While no one could blame you for thinking you were listening to The Doors just now, you were actually listening to an LA band called Strange Days, a tribute to The Doors. Joining me in the studio are Robert Carsten, who plays Robbie Krieger. Welcome, Bob.
How you doing?
And also Jason Tosta, who plays Mr. Mojo Rising, the old Lizard King himself, Jim Morrison. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks, Dan.
As I said, you guys are based in Los Angeles, but you're doing two shows here in Arizona. You played last night, and you're playing again tonight. Before we start talking about your band, I want to run through just a brief history of The Doors as a little refresher course for the listeners. In 1967, they released their stunning debut album, one of the great debuts in rock history. And it was just barely 1967, January 4th, so it was actually recorded in 66. I tend to associate it with 66. Produced two huge radio hits with Break On Through and, of course, Light My Fire. But the rest of the album was also really strong and had that epic 11-minute closer, The End, that really got people's attention and demonstrated that this was no ordinary band. Interestingly, due to some sort of record pressing error or something, for years that album was sold about a half step flat, making A minor sound closer to A flat minor. I remember learning how to play that thing. I learned it a half step low. That was corrected, by that thing I mean Light My Fire. It was corrected on the 40th anniversary mixes. So if you haven't heard those, you really haven't heard that album in the correct pitch. I'll keep that in mind, everybody. Their second album, Strange Days, from which you guys took your band name, also produced two big hits, Love Me Two Times and People Are Strange. It also had strong album tracks, and it also closed with another 11-minute epic, When the Music's Over. And that one was recorded and released in 67. Definitely a worthy follow-up to the debut. So 1967 was a big year for them. Definitely the year they broke on through. In 68, they released a third album, Waiting for the Sun. There are a few problems with that one. It does have a huge hit, Hello, I Love You. But some of the album tracks seem a little bit more like filler. And the epic ending for that one, sadly, didn't come to be. That was going to be Celebration of the Lizard. They just couldn't get it recorded to their satisfaction, so all we got was a little taste of it, Not to Touch the Earth. And there was also a perception that Morrison might be headed in the 16 magazine teeny bopper idol direction. So while it attracted some new fans, it sort of turned off some other fans. But in fairness, that album does contain 5 to 1 and The Unknown Soldier, which are just as classic and edgy as anything on their first 2 albums. And things like Spanish Caravan, where Robbie shines. So, I understand the issue people had, but, still amazing work. 1969's Soft Parade, also a little problematic. The hit song from that one was Touch Me. But some of the fans were turned off by all the brass and strings. They wanted the Lizard King, not Frank Sinatra. To them, Soft Parade was unrecognizable from the debut in terms of direction. But again, an epic closer, the Soft Parade Suite. The end of that is some of my favorite Doors stuff ever. And other album tracks are strong, Shaman's Blues, Wild Child. But in 1970 with Morrison Hotel, they really righted the ship, made everyone happy. That's considered their triumphant comeback by the fans they'd alienated. Roadhouse Blues, classic rocker. And, I would never make fun of anyone's alcoholism, but if you write a line, I woke up this morning, got myself a beer, that's like a red flag, I think. And the album tracks are cool. Peace Frog, Ship of Fools. So strong album. Then in 71, they released what many consider to be their best album, or if not, surely a fan favorite, L.A. Woman. You got the hit Love Her Madly, and what I consider to be 2 mini epics in L.A. Woman and Riders on the Storm. Tremendous album tracks like The Changeling. But unfortunately, that was it for Morrison. He quit music, moved to Paris to be a writer, and as we know, he tragically died at the age of 27. The Doors did try to carry on and release 2 more studio albums, Other Voices and Full Circle, which were largely forgotten. The absence of Jim Morrison was just too big of a hit. In 1978, they released American Prayer, which benefited from the presence of Jim Morrison, but which he wasn't able to participate in directly, so can't really consider that canon, though I personally dig it a lot. I listen to it probably as often or maybe even more often than the other ones. And then back in 1970, between Morrison Hotel and L.A. Woman, they released Absolutely Live, which is probably the most equivalent to what you guys sound like, since it's all about the live experience. So just to remind everybody about the Doors. So Bob, let's talk about what goes into being Robbie Krieger, because you play the red SG that he's associated with. I think you kind of have to do that. I seem to remember him playing a Les Paul, maybe in some of that Soft Parade video, but that's a safe choice, and it's a versatile instrument. And the next thing I think about is a slide. Apparently, Jim Morrison really dug the slide upon first meeting. Would you have a preference in that between glass and metal?
I actually use metal, which is the same thing that Robbie uses. It's the same slides. And I went through all of them, just seeing what feels best on the string. And for the style and for his sound, might as well use what he uses. So,
you guys are pretty good at doing what they did. We'll get into that a little bit. Alternate tunings is another thing I associate him with, detuning and stuff like that. That means 2 things: detuning, D-E-T. Tuning is E down to a D for raga kind of stuff. You imitated that as well, or tried to play around?
Yeah, I use one SG tuned to a G tuning for most of the slide songs. And
Nice.
then for the end, it's a slight variation on that. You tune the G back up to an A. It's just 2 Ds, drop Ds.
I know Jimmy Page used to do that stuff too, and man, I'm just way too lazy to try alternate tunings. Stanley Jordan, he tunes his B string up to a C, I think, so he can go 5th fret all the way across.
And then there's Robert Fripp, who has his own complete guitar tuning that starts C below E to a G above E.
And then the 7 strings came in with that low B string, and guys, they make instruments now that have got 32 strings on them. I don't know if people even play them. But I think most significantly, when you think of Robbie Krieger, you think, because of his flamenco roots, playing without a pick. So was that something you had done before, or something you had to adapt to?
It's kind of a weird coincidence in that when I started playing guitar, I couldn't deal with the pick. And my teacher was nice enough to allow me 6 months with no pick. But then he said, you need to work the pick now. And my thing was, I didn't like the plastic. I liked the feeling of finger. But then after years of using a pick, going back to Robbie, it was like, I have no choice. It's like, and then it kind of made a full circle. It made sense. And I like using fingers. But for other stuff, I use pick. But for Robbie, all fingers.
Yeah, that's a cool little bit of serendipity that when you first played the instrument, you took the same approach as him.
Yeah, I didn't like to pick, and then to go back now, and that's kind of one of the things I do. It's kind of funny.
That is cool. Well, next let's talk to Jason about being Morrison. When you think of Jim Morrison's voice, it's not enough just to do a singing voice. You got to get his speaking voice. You got to get his screaming voice. And you got to get his laugh. I didn't think about that till I kind of looked into you guys. I mean, he had a distinctive laugh, very distinctive scream, his singing and speaking voice. Also, then you got to worry about the look, and if you're one of the tributes that wants to look like him, and his movements and mannerisms. You know, based on the version of Backdoor Man we just heard, you've mastered all those things I just mentioned. They're all in that particular track. Do you? Well, actually, I'll just let you address that before I get deeper into it. I mean, did anybody tell you prior to this, hey, you kind of sound like Jim Morrison, or was it something you had to sort of develop?
Well, I've been a fan since I was very young. I took my mom's L.A. Woman record when I was a kid, and I just never gave it back, and just listened to it and was just intrigued by it. That's how I got into the Doors. I didn't know much about Jim Morrison until I was probably in high school, but I used to sit. I got so transfixed into the music. You know, I think we all go through that phase in our lives where we are partying and that adolescent, rebellious thing, and I had nothing to really attach it to until I started listening to the Doors, and I'm like, wow, this is really like exactly what I'm feeling right now, and kind of locked into it. And I used to, I used to sit around and just sing those songs over and over again, but never thinking that this would come about.
And I think about it, they are kind of an interesting combination of intellect and punk rock. I mean, they're like a punk band in a sense, but there was this erudite quality to them, very unusual, very unique. And, you do physically resemble Morrison a bit, but a lot of it, his moves and everything like that. I mean, I know that a lot of research I could just tell from some of the things I saw at the gig last night, a lot of research goes into it. I mean, there's interviews out there, there's films, there's books. I mean, how important do you think that is? Some of the things that people don't necessarily see, but you have in your mind, how important do you think it is? In other words, if somebody could sing like him and could look like him, but didn't do the homework, how important is it to you?
Well, I think if you go out there and you think you're doing it great, you got a problem. I don't. There's only one Jim Morrison. I would never pretend in a million years to try to even crest a minute bit of it. My thing, it comes from being a fan, and it comes from this idea that he died 45 years ago, and I'm just don't want to see the Doors fade from the consciousness. And every year that goes by, it seems like more and more people are moving on to different things. So I approach it more from like a respect, but I don't pretend to be anything other than a giant fan that, with the music behind us, is able to kind of I've watched everything a million times. Mm-hmm. The silent 8mm loops, all the different things, every little bit, and I don't really script anything or think of it. We just start playing, and the music kind of Pied Piper's the thing, and we just get into it. It
has a spirit. It's interesting because one thing I've noticed, because I'm in a similar peer group with you guys and grew up with similar music. If you go to Target, there's Led Zeppelin t-shirts, Doors t-shirts, Pink Floyd t-shirts. New generations discover it, and I think it's kind of becoming like their classical music. I mean, the Beatles. The Beatles broke up in 1970, around the same time as the Doors. It might as well still be a band. I mean, really. So I kind of find hope. I remember, I've spoken about Steely Dan sometimes. You mentioned your mom had the L.A. Woman. Some guy found a cassette tape of Asia, in his parents' stuff. And just like, wow. It's like, so the fact that, quality does survive. We'll talk about it in a minute in terms of vintage gear and stuff. There are certain dated elements to any music. But the thing about the Doors is Morrison's voice is kind of timeless. It could have recorded at any time. John Densmore's drumming, kind of timeless. A little bit of the gear that Ray used, it sounded a tiny bit dated, I would say. And then, Robbie is kind of an anachronism. He doesn't get its style apart anyways, I remember hearing that somebody told him not to use a wah pedal on a track because it would immediately date their sound. And I don't remember if he did or not. I know you had some interesting applications of the wah last night when I heard you playing. Some things I hadn't heard him do, but still fit. And that's another thing I'll talk to you later when we talk about your show last night, how kind of what you were saying, you were doing a note-for-note copy of him. You were kind of doing your own thing, particularly the players, within the framework of the Doors. And I respect that. Like in Riders of the Storm, your keyboard player just kind of did his own solo. He didn't cop Ray's thing. Because, you are musicians too. it's hard to say. I know some artists like David Gilmour, he knows if he doesn't do the Comfortably Numb solo exactly the way people know it, it's a problem. But they'll leave themselves other spots in the show.
Exactly. They'll do that, but they'll stretch out somewhere.
Exactly. And Elliot Randall has been on here. He's very famous for playing Reelin' in the Years. So what he does is he does 80% of it, and then at the tag at the end, he plays whatever he wants. So he satisfies everybody, satisfies them and himself. But I'm wondering, because in addition to the music, you also talk to the audience and everything, Jason. Do you find the expectation of people kind of expect Morrison to look and act and talk a certain way? Do you find it comforting to have that there, or do you find it limiting? I imagine it works both ways at times, but do you feel like, oh, good, this is a thing I can slip on and I'm very comfortable doing it? Or?
No, I mean, it's not comfortable ever. I find daunting the better word. I think that it's just something. I think that's a little piece of me a little bit in the show is that to try to make it accessible and not so not to break it up with like some levity, and a lot of that stuff is stuff that Jim actually said.
Exactly.
You know, so it's like taking it and kind of fitting it in there, and the hardcore Doors fans go, I know that, and the ones that aren't say that's kind of funny. They don't know whether or not. So it's a lot of figuring that out, but there's no scripts or anything. We don't go out there with any idea. It's just kind of by the seat of the pants. And
well, he was funny. I mean, in outtakes, he's funny, and in gigs, I mean, in Hollywood Bowl, he did some funny stuff, like something simple like burping in a microphone, or making a joke, or on the Absolutely Live, New York joints, you pick your teeth with them, and you could tell that was part of his trip. But that's interesting to hear you say, because he has certain little dances he did, and I'm wondering, you've done so many performances now. I guess you already answered this question, if any of his mannerisms or body language have become second nature to you at this point, at least during the show, or if you're always conscious of it. Some of it.
Yeah, I mean, during the show, I mean, there's like some go-to things, but there's always things in the middle of it all, and I'm always trying to find, because the Doors had long solo sections in their songs.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't want to just stand at the microphone for these long solo sections. So in a lot of ways, I like to go around and kind of draw attention to, Robbie, Ray, and John, and I think that's what Jim. He didn't like to be called Jim Morrison and the Doors. It was the Doors.
Yeah.
So I think that's the way we approach it. It's the band. It's not. So I like the stage show. I like to keep moving around and kind of give it to the other guys too, and keep it flowing.
Yeah, well, it's interesting for me because last night I just saw you in character, and today I'm seeing you as yourself. And yeah, I would say you're an expert at working that crowd. I mean, from the moment you hit the stage, and obviously all you guys had the music down, but the moment you hit the stage to the moment you left, I mean, people knew it wasn't Jim Morrison, but it was such a nice facsimile, because you've gone with friendly Jim. There was times when he was angry Jim, he was drunk Jim. Some people said at certain things, especially early on, he almost had like an evil quality to him. You know what I mean? No, we got friendly Jim. Which was cool, because that's pretty much what you want when you're doing a tribute.
What's really grown as we've grown, which I think is him, is that he's really fast with like an audience. Somebody will yell something out, and he molds it into something that's not cutting the person down or anything, but just instant comedy, and it makes everyone laugh.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't even know if Jim had that quality.
Yeah, I mean, what they say about him is in the beginning he wouldn't even look at the audience. He would.
But I was scared to.
He was just totally had stage fright. And if you listen to the very early demos, he didn't even sing like he did later. He sang kind of high voice, Moonlight Drive. Like he hadn't found himself yet, Yeah. And when he did, boy, did he, huh?
Right.
Well, of course, we did a little bit of history on the Doors. We were talking earlier about Dick Dale getting a shot in the arm when Pulp Fiction came out with Miserlou. Apocalypse Now kind of gave the Doors a little resurgence, got people interested in them again. No one here gets out a live book. The famous 1981 Rolling Stones article with that headline, Jim Morrison, he's hot, he's sexy, and he's dead. And as we said, Doors keeps finding new audiences, but, I should imagine that, when you do your research and find a little nugget, like a little comment or anything, incorporating it, because surprisingly, things still continue to resurface, and it's kind of surprising. Like, for example, Hendrix really wasn't around that long. Even him, stuff keeps showing up. Apparently, he recorded like everything he did. I mean, all the time. let's get into this a little bit. You guys probably have an opinion about this, which is that Oliver Stone movie. Because after that came out, Ray didn't like the way, because we were talking about the different versions of Jim, he did not like the way Jim was portrayed in that, because it didn't show Jim the poet, Jim the nice guy. It made him look kind of like...
three-dimensional in the
Yeah,
first
it was, and he even said, no disrespect to Val Kilmer as an actor, he just didn't like Oliver Stone's choices. So I guess we can start with that, but what's your guys, you one at a time, what's your overall, I'm sure you've seen it, what's your overall take on the film?
I didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
at all, pretty much.
A lot of Doors fans felt that way.
Yeah.
I didn't like the movie.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the elements of the live performance, the way the look of those shots. I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
But after seeing it a second time, it's like I can't even get through the movie portions
It's
to get
almost
to
like
those.
the Doors for people who don't know the Doors.
Exactly.
My issue with it is kind of like, and I don't know if a filmmaker can work around this, but so many things are treated like a classic moment in rock. Like Jim is on the beach singing Moonlight Drive, or they write Light My Fire in the Beach House. Okay, for those guys, it was like us right now. It was just kind of casual hanging out. We're not thinking, like if somebody made a movie about you guys and this is the scene where Dan interviews Bob and Jason. All right, and action. Like there's all this, self-consciousness about it.
Right.
And the whole movie's about all these little sort of key points in the Doors story. I don't know, maybe it would have worked better as a mini-series, or you're right, you got to feel the 60s. I give them credit for that. You really can't go wrong with the music, particularly when they use actual Doors in it. But yeah, it was almost like Oliver Stone's version of the Doors.
Well, the problem is that you might as well call the movie Jim Morrison, because the Doors are barely featured in it. And I think that's a lessening idea. And then the entire movie, he's portrayed as a drunk, stoned, kind of, boorish person who, this is a guy who created some of the most timeless music. And look at that movie. There's no instances of him creating this amazing music. It's only I'm drunk, I'm throwing
Partying
stuff around, I'm whipped, I'm ripped out of my mind. And it's like, of course that was part of it, but I think it was just every bad thing from those, which is Hollywood. You just take everything negative off somebody, and I walked out thinking that's unfair. But luckily for me, as a huge Doors fan forever, When You're Strange came out, the documentary, and that righted a lot of the feelings I had towards
like two different guys. What the hell is this about?
Well, it's just a really great documentary. It's just amazing.
All this stuff with real Jim is always the stuff you want.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But I guess the final thing I'll say about Oliver Stone movie is, we've all seen the Doors on Ed Sullivan Do Light My Fire, where he said, "Don't say higher." And he did it anyways. It was a subtle little thing.
He didn't
in that
go,
movie. Yeah, it's like this. It's like a clown. It's like, when you see this bizarre behavior and that's not how it went down, it just makes me question the accuracy of everything in that.
Exactly.
At that point, I'm like going, well, if you're going to treat that like that, yeah. Anyways, but one thing I do want to talk about though, in terms of acting, this is something I've thought about Jim Morrison, and you have to approach being Morrison as an actor, playing a character, but I always wondered if Jim Morrison himself was not like creating, because he had the film background, creating a role of rock star. Like when he hit the stage, it wasn't, I'm not Jim out there. I'm, you could call it Lizard King for shorthand. Because the reason I think this is, there are little moments where he breaks character, like where he'll turn and go, "Oh, I blew it, it's a moth," or like, "Give the singer some, man." It's like, I'm Jim for a moment, but now I'm back into my official character. I don't mean it as a criticism. I don't mean it in a phony way. What I mean is I kind of felt like the Doors for him, and of course he had his aspirations to be a poet and everything, but it was kind of like he'd hit the stage going, how am I going to further develop this rock star character? So do you feel as you act him that he was acting the part in a way on a level too?
I think that, I don't have any... I don't know. I don't know anything about him personally, but theoretically, my vision has always been of him. He had a lot of pressure on him, and I think that everyone was tugging on him, and I think maybe he wasn't surrounded by the greatest people, and I think that maybe that was just a lot for him, and I think that the early on was the best, before all that started happening. But I think as people started to hang on him, and the trial hung on him, and all these things hung on him, and I think that like you said, the 16 magazine thing, he didn't want that, so he went the opposite direction to try to get away from that. And I think he tried to
change his appearance.
And I think that even back then the media was putting pressure on on people to change their things to try to fit into this homogenized thing. I think he was just a one of a kind, and I think when you saw a Doors show, whether it was bad or good, that was the place to be when they were in town, and you never knew what you were going to get. And I think that with a lot of bands, that's a rarity. Yeah, you never knew.
Those are all great points, and I wonder if at a certain point, if you want to kind of protect yourself by separating a little bit, just kind of saying, I think that the Beatles did that. They were described as the quiet one and the cute one and this one, and they kind of wanted to buy into that persona in public, so they could go, okay, this is what you expect us to be. Here we are. They go off and be themselves. Well, that's cool. I want to talk a little bit more about you guys specifically. I give you a lot of props because there are two ways to do a tribute. One is like a sort of a sound-alike thing where you don't worry so much about the look or the vibe. And those are people who try and go all out and do everything. And that's what you guys do, and you do it exceptionally well. Really, it's the closest you're going to get to experiencing a Doors concert because there are a lot of details, wardrobe details, a necklace, a belt buckle, appropriate shirts, pinstripes, the little subtle touches that people appreciate. But we have to talk a little bit about this unique thing to the Doors about a bass player. They started out with keyboard bass. They went in the studio. The producer said, you can do that live, but I want a bass player in the studio. So I don't know how other tributes handle it, but you guys have gone the route of staying a four-piece, using the keyboard bass, and that's nice because then there's four guys on stage, and there's a guy going like this with one hand a little higher. It really, creates the mood a little bit better. So was that a question of having the right keyboard player? Is that a question of finding the instrument?
Even before we hit the stage, we want the audience to get excited just by looking at the stage.
Yeah,
and I've heard that. I've been in the audience and doing something before show, before costume, and I hear people say, look, that's the Ray Rig. That's what he played.
Right.
That's what he used. And they see the drum set. And like, to me, if you're a tribute band that doesn't dress up, you're half-assed, and you're not in the tribute scene. A tribute show is a play that happens to be a concert. We're trying to be these people. So it comes down to I watch Robbie on TV and notice that when the camera catches him, he kind of looks nervous and kind of walks away. So I pace. I go back and forth. I'll look over at the drummer. I'll go over the keys. It's trying to do what they did, recreate their steps. It's not just the music. A lot of them say, well, close your eyes. It's only about the sound. No, we want people to blur their eyes and think they're in the 60s. Well,
a couple times I just closed my eyes and just gave you the listen test. And I said, if you brought a blind dude in here, you could tell me, hey man, the Doors are still together. Listen, you guys sounded just like the Doors. I couldn't tell any discrepancies. Back in the 80s, I saw two Doors tribute bands in Sacramento. One of them was just weak all the way across the board. I mean, let alone looking like Jim Morrison. The dude didn't sound like Jim Morrison. I go, what is the point of this? I mean, it reminds me of those fly-by-night businesses that get you one time. I would never rebook these guys.
Exactly.
But there was a problem here with the other one, which was the Jim Morrison guy was good in all the ways you'd want to, but I guess in order to travel light, they didn't bring their own drums. They just have an opening act, and whatever drums they had, the guy would play. Well, my buddy Chris Orberg, who goes by the name Spike now, he lives up in Nevada. He's a drummer for Steel Breeze. He had built these yellow, tubular, distorted, this really weird-looking drum set, which was fine for his band.
But not for the Doors.
Did not make you think of 1960s Doors, man. And the whole show, I'd watch it. I was trying. But there was this gigantic banana drum set up there that this dude was playing John Densmore. And I go, I'm not feeling this, man.
Well, years ago, I saw a Doors tribute where the guitarist had a flaming yellow Strat type guitar. And that ruined it for me. Just the guitar, looking at it was, no, it's not what he'd ever
Not
used.
only that, but you're not going to get the right sound if you don't have the right
Exactly.
gear.
Strats are not Doors sounding guitars.
I mean, that dude was doing what he wanted to do instead. So, I will say this in behalf of tribute bands that don't look like him. Will Lee from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, that's different.
They have Fab Four, of course. All they want to do is they know that at a certain point in the Beatles' career, they had horns and strings and sitars. So they said, our thing is going to be a sound-alike thing. So we can have a bunch of people on stage. Well, that's fine.
But you wouldn't expect real music. I mean, we're not real musicians, but guys in the big leagues to dress up. That would be kind of weird for them.
Yeah, well,
so they bring that element. They bring the whole orchestrations to.
But I'm saying in that sense, I would respect them. But somebody who comes through town and says we're a tribute to Scorpions, and they don't look like the Scorpions, and they kind of sound like them, and 2 out of 3 guys you're right. That's weak sauce. Yeah. On the other hand, if a band is tributing somebody like Chicago or even Pink Floyd, and they just sound really good, But the thing is, you're right. The Doors had a very distinctive look.
But you'd still want to see that Pink Floyd tribute have a Strat
Yeah.
and not like a national guitar, something that doesn't make sense. You just want
Right.
the parts to look.
But you'd be a little more forgiving if the guy didn't look like.
Of
David
course,
Gilmour.
because
That's
no
all.
one thinks about that. Yeah.
Because I'm friends with. I was going to get into this later. We'll get into it now. I'm friends with Mitch Weissman, and I lived in New York City in the late '70s, and they had this phenomenon, Beatlemania. Okay, it hit the Winter Garden Theater in I think '78. The Beatles were not happy about this, but they didn't own the word Beatlemania because the press had coined it apparently, and they didn't really own the rights to their music. So this was basically a Beatles concert, where guys a look-alike, sound-alike thing, and Mitch was the bass player in that. For the promo photos, he held his bass left-handed. At the gig, he did it right-handed. And I was trying to sort of pinpoint where tribute bands, originated, but I didn't really get with him in time. But I mentioned to him, since you're all LA guys, I didn't know if you knew each other. I asked him if he knew you guys. He said he might have met you. He wasn't really sure. He works at Sam Ash in Hollywood now.
Okay.
He was on he looks so much like Paul McCartney. It was ridiculous. He was on some TV show, might have been Joni Loves Chachi or something, way back in the 70s. And
Wow.
the joke was, I'll send you guys the YouTube, it's funny. The joke was they thought he was Paul McCartney. He never said he was. They just all assumed he was, and then he wasn't. But we'll get into that later. But returning to you guys, and I know you have a sound engineer background. I don't pull it out, but I printed out from your website your guys' technical requirements, about the monitors and the sound and what you guys require. And I mean, if I was a booking guy and I saw that, I go, these guys are professionals, man.
Right.
These guys are freaking professionals, man. It was so detailed, exactly what you needed, exactly what you wanted, So I respect that a lot because it just tells you that you guys are taking it seriously for yourselves and for the audience. And the nice thing about tributing someone like the Doors is there's a lot of musical variety in there, man. They got ballads like Crystal Ship. They've got blues like Cars His Pipe.
There's even a waltz.
Yeah.
Waltz.
Yeah, and they've got like a, dun dun that Alabama song, funky things like Peace Frog, But when I think of the word jazz, they had a jazz improv structure. By far the jazziest rock band. I don't just mean extended solos. I don't just mean, jazzy chords. I mean, they would start with a formal structure, allow themselves to improvise all of them collectively, and return to the formal structure at the end, the way jazz musicians would. But within that, they were doing a poetry recitation or, guitar effect or just, but then the interesting thing was they're doing it collectively. They were listening to each other very carefully. They were playing off each other.
Robbie once said that there's a statement where Robbie said that we're a poet and musicians that very much read each other very well. And that's what it takes.
Yeah, and that's one thing. What other band did that? I mean, the only other band I think that allowed themselves to be that loose would be even like something like a Grateful Dead. They're kind of like a long jam band, but they didn't have the personality or the presence of, God bless you, Bob Ware and Jerry Garcia, but they weren't going to go into some, Oedipal territory. They were like, it was almost like well, I will say this in fairness to the Grateful Dead. I saw them in concert in Davis, California in the 80s. And that's like the only show I've been to where, I was on the floor. Back in those days, I just always pushed my way to the front. But they played, man, and the main thing about them was the dual drummer thing.
Yeah.
And Mickey Hart. But there was one moment where literally every single person in the building was dancing. Even me. I'm not usually a dancing guy, but I didn't want to be the one guy. I looked in every direction, and everybody there from the front of the stage to the top was dancing. I go, I never seen that pulled off before.
Right.
And a lot of it is the audience bringing their enthusiasm to it. But so I give him respect for that. But as a musician, I don't really think of anything Jerry ever played that I thought that nobody's ever played
Stellar.
before.
Right, exactly.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I like the stuff he did with other people better, like CSN and
Right.
things people don't even know it's him.
Right.
Well, let's talk specifically about last night's show. First of all, let's give some credit to your other band members. Who's playing the role of Ray Manzarek? Michael Jacobson. Michael Jacobson, and John Densmore.
His name's Dave Madden.
Okay, so it's not Derek Smith, or they rotate, or
Right. We
Okay.
changed every
depending
now
on
and
who's
then.
available or however. Okay. Now I was sitting, I was sitting at a table for four, and because I just bought one ticket, it was a group of three people, and that's why I was able to get such a good seat. I was like right in the middle. I was probably closer to you than the drummer, in the reverse image. So I had a great vantage point. I was writing notes on my iPod. Every time you guys play a tune, I just make a note, of what tune you were playing, so I have the full set list. And the only thing I didn't like about last night's show, and I'll say this openly because it had nothing to do with you guys. The dude who was sitting right in front of me was a tabletop drummer.
Oh.
That in itself wasn't a problem. The dude had no rhythm.
Oh, no.
He was so excited. No matter what you played, he'd start banging hard. But you'd be like, oh, never mind, LA Woman. He's like, it starts out so fast. It's like, and my elbow was on the table, so the table would shake. And it even wouldn't have been bad if he was on rhythm, but it was like he was playing a different song than you guys. So every time that happened, I just lift up my arm, and I'm not going to tell the guy anything. I mean, he's there to have fun.
He's doing his thing, right?
Yeah, it's all good, but I go, dude. And every once in a while, he'd imitate the keyboards. I go, do more of that, man.
More keyboards. I like your keyboard, man. You do a good keyboard.
Because he was with a couple on the other side, and he kept turning them, it's this song, it's that song. He was all into it, but, dude, can you not bang on the table? At any rate. The gig looked like it was more or less sold out, and you booked 2 shows, so I guess you must know. I mean, I was looking around, and it was, I don't know how many seats, but, there might have been just one random empty seat, but it was, there was plenty of people there, and I doubt anybody didn't like it. I mean, you delivered what you're there to deliver. But now, how long have you guys been doing this? Because I imagine, like any other touring band, you're going to build up a following in different cities.
We're up to almost 6 years. December 5th this year will be 6 years.
Almost exactly as long as I've been doing this podcast.
Oh, wow.
I started this in the 2010, May 2010. Awesome. So you open the show with Touch Me. And, there's just a couple of Doors moments where outside musicians come to mind. The sax solo on that, maybe some harmonica on Roadhouse Blues. And I figured you guys were going to blow through that, and you did. After that, People Are Strange. Way lower in tempo, but, beloved song. Hello, I Love You came next. And then I started to make my notes about what you guys are all wearing and everything, because you just come out, and we've already talked about that. Love Me 2 Times. And I got to say, man, when you're screaming as Morrison, you're not holding back. You're really going for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you do a lot of gigs. Do you have any, voice preservation techniques? Or
People
anything?
ask that all the time. No, what it basically is that it's just basically dependent upon how raspy is the gym going to be the next show. There's no preservation. I've always said that my belief when you do this is that there's a gun to the back of your head, and if you don't go all the way, then someone's going to pull the trigger. I mean, there's no going halfway with this. I mean, if you're going to do it and people are going to come out and they're going to, put their money out there, it's all we can do is give everything. So it does worry. I mean, he calls me all the time. Hey, what do you get some tea and honey going? I mean, I don't destroy myself, but by the same token, I'm not thinking about tomorrow night.
Well, it's not like he's known for carefully placed screams, like people are expecting in certain spots, and if you don't do it, they're gonna probably notice. It's like there's some singing I wouldn't want to be Steven Tyler and just sing a certain way all night, but that's why I wonder, because different people have their little sprays and different things.
Yeah, no, I haven't done anything.
I doubt Jim himself did.
Sometimes I even enjoy how it sounds better after when it's kind of broken down a little bit, it's kind of like a bootleg trip.
This is why I meant Absolutely Live. If you listen to that album, he isn't always in top form, but it doesn't really matter sometimes. Particularly, the Doors are kind of a gritty band, some of the stuff they did. You don't want John Anderson of Yes, like a little choir boy. You want some grit to it.
Right.
And the interesting thing is your rested Jim Morrison sounds good, and your raspy Jim Morrison sounds like raspy Jim Morrison, which is good. You don't lose it, So that's cool. Yeah, I'm kind of not surprised to hear. But my point is, I was on the way to a gig one time, and with the car, I was just, as a joke, I was singing Ronnie James Dio, Rainbow in the Dark or something. And then I got to the gig, and I wasn't a lead singer, background vocalist. I got to the mic, and my throat was trashed. Right. And I'd only done that for 30 seconds.
Right.
So I mean, if you go down that wrong territory, I mean, be like, twisting your ankle or something, and the focal point's on you, so you got to have it together. Alabama song you guys did with the Mac the Knife stuff. This is what I mean. This is the difference between you guys and the Oliver Stone movie. I mean, people who are fans of the Doors are going to appreciate the little touches you add because they're going to know where they came from, and people who are casual fans are just going to do you have any casual fans anymore? I mean, you're all in, right? If you like the Doors, right?
Right.
I mean, are there any people who go, I like a couple of their songs? It seems to me like they're one of those sort of bands where you like love or hate kind of
The
thing.
nice thing we've gotten from people is, wow, I don't even like the Doors, but I like you guys. I didn't realize they had so many short song, barnstorming tunes.
Yeah.
Because people start to think the Doors synonymous with the end,
Yeah.
and then instantly they don't like the Doors because they're a downer band.
A lot of 2-minute tight.
For every one of those, they've got 10 that are just kicking.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw that on your website where it said, I don't even like the Doors, but I like you. My buddy Nick Nicholson's a country guy. So people say, I don't really like country music, but I like your band. You rock. Because they have like sort of like a deep purple undercurrent underneath the country.
Right.
So, I get that. But yeah, well, that's the thing too. I mean, some people, like Keith Emerson I spoke with, he's disappointed in Emerson, Lake and Palmer because they were kind of like a guy band. And most of the women there were dragged there by husbands and boyfriends. And we're going, like this, they didn't look very happy. But I bet you some of those women got there and heard some of that stuff and dug it, And so this is, I'm saying, if you guys play a lot of over 21 venues and stuff, my kids are very young. Yeah. But if you were playing a state fair or something, I'd take them. And, there's been times I research a lot for this show where I'm just playing stuff, even Jim Beard's music, sophisticated stuff, and they're just in the car with me, and I'll hear them singing the chorus. I'll be walking through the room doing the laundry, and they'll be singing some tune. So, yeah, it's all getting up in the brain. And
right.
I'm making a point, because we'll get to this later, you made a comment last night about the state of modern music, and I have young kids, and I want to make sure they know all their choices, not just where the culture is thrusting on them. But
right.
One thing I noticed in an Alabama song, your Ray, Michael, he's got his hand pumping the bass, and he can play chords, but when he solos, the guitar occupies that sonic territory in between. He's up high, he's down low, the guitar's right in. That's like sort of a nice little sonic thing. It gives a full sound. And I also noticed that whatever he was playing, if I was hearing an organ or a harpsichord or a piano or a Rhodes, it was the same keyboard. So we don't to talk about the exact instrument, but that's kind of nice too, because Ray didn't have that luxury.
Yeah, basically what I did was I created that's a actual Vox, but it's been gutted and it's been retrofit with a synthesizer inside.
That's brilliant, man.
And then the actual Fender Rhodes is also a synthesizer. That's not a real Fender Rhodes.
That's built from scratch.
But it's built from Fender Rhodes parts. Like everything on there is Fender Rhodes except the inside.
It's amazing, man. So you get the best of both worlds. You get the look, and then you get the versatility of modern sound.
Well, I also, and my stance for doing it is that the Doors are a great live band and absolutely live, and I have all the bootlegs, and they're amazing. But I think that was by necessity at the time. I think if Ray if he could have had harpsichords and all these things, he would have done it. So, and also because it's been so long, I think people, they like they know the Doors a lot by the studio album sound. So we try to be like that live look with the studio album sound, but we'll throw like those bootleg bits in there, those little things. So you kind of get like, it's kind of like that Spectrum thing where the layman digs it, and then the hardcores can dig it, and you're just trying to kind of get to as many people as possible,
Was it Orange County Suite that they sort of revived later,
yeah,
and with a little bit more modern keyboard sound? Almost sounded wrong,
Right.
You wanted to hear Ray's sound because it's a signature sound. Just like Jimmy playing a Marshall in a Strat, that's kind of a classic sound. Maybe that's a bad example, but you know what I mean. It's like you kind of want to hear when he's doing "Love Me Two Times." You don't want to hear something modern. You want to hear, I think we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You guys covered it adequately. So then you guys played Backdoor Man, and that's the one where I really noticed my tabletop drummer. When you came into that, he's like, bam, bam. I go, you understand the rhythm of this, and your hand is different, right? Anyway, it's funny now. It was fine at the time. I just kept backing off the table, moving to the right, because he'd have no stamina. He's gonna quit. So then you Backdoor Man into 5-1. The logical thing. And I was kind of looking around, at your demographic. It's going to be an older group because that's who knew the Doors. And also, as I said, it's an over 21 venue. What do you think at this point over the last 6 years is the largest audience you've ever played to? Any particular big ones?
Well, we played the Las Vegas Hilton. That was
a couple thousand.
That was like
people.
2,000 people.
Sweet. How does it affect your performance? Because one thing that I think the Doors kind of suffered from when they started playing stadiums and stuff. So we talked about the jazz thing, London Fog and Whiskey. They were kind of like more of an intimate. There were subtleties to what they did. It doesn't register. And back in those days, there was no jumbo screens either.
Right.
Right. So it's almost better to play like the audience I saw last night. It's almost more authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to say.
Yeah, those shows. You try to, I guess, with any like stage or play, is different between theater acting and television acting, you got to project a little more, and
Yeah.
I can't say it really changes much, but definitely we're aware of it. You know, it's an awareness thing, but.
Does it pump you up? Look at all these people, or does it kind of make you think, oh, like you said, I got to
It really
adapt?
depends on the people. If the people
yeah.
are lots of them, but they're just kind of, doing nothing, then it's kind of like, oh no. But if you, like anything, you feed off their energy. So if they're going nuts, it's like, yeah.
And when we get to the end of this, we'll talk a little bit, because there's the greatest hits approach, and there's a deeper cut and everything. And you guys you did an hour and a half show, and there's a lot of stuff you could have done or not done. But I just want to finish up with what you actually did. By the way, this is right about the spot in the show where a drum solo happened. And I was curious to know if that was planned or spontaneous, because you guys look genuinely surprised by this drum solo.
Well, by the placement of where he did it, we were surprised. But it's a little thing we do every once in a while where it's the drum feature.
Yeah.
But he came in early.
He has permission to do it. He just didn't really do it.
He just
when
came
you
in
expect
wrong.
to.
Yeah, he kind of robbed the beginning of it the way it was supposed to be and
Okay.
took it a different place.
Well, you guys were all
But it
smiles
worked.
about it, so it wasn't like you were pissed off. It was kind of like, you mentioned some comment, but next he's going to write a book. Or something.
Well, there's an
Yeah.
acting bit that's involved with the
Yeah.
right way it's done, where we like I go like this, like come on, that's not for a drum solo,
Yeah.
and that still went on. So you saw that, but we were genuinely like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is a little different.
I could tell. I mean, you commented on it in such a way where you could kind of tell you broke character a little bit. You were amused by what he was doing, but you could tell and he was perfect.
Well, you
He was all
understand the
smiles.
joke, right? Because
Um,
Densmore writes books.
Yeah.
One of these days he's going to write a book.
Well, I do understand that, because I approached John Densmore about being on this show. I only got to his gatekeeper, and the guy said, "Well, he'll do it, but he's writing a book right now." And I don't know if he's so. Yeah, I do get it, but yeah, it was funny. It was one of my favorite parts. Just like you said, you never really know what's going to happen, and because I knew something had happened. In fact, I saw Nicholas David here at the Musical Instrument Museum, and he skipped a song in the set list and went to a song where the band didn't play on. They're supposed to do another one, and you could tell they were literally like, "Big guy, like, should we just stand here and not play?" And they put their instruments down and slinked off. And when I interviewed him later, I asked, he goes, "Yeah, I messed up. I skipped a song." And then you can tell those moments. Is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It was fine, and his drum solo was good.
Yeah.
Really, when all due respect to Robbie and Ray, when I first discovered the Doors, the two elements that really jumped for me was Jim Morrison's voice, John Densmore's drumming. I said, this dude is like a cut above most rock drummers. I said, I like this guy. I liked Robbie. I liked Ray too. So 20th Century Fox, you did that. I was kind of pleasantly surprised you did that. I was wondering if you're going to do that kind of stuff. I don't know if I want to spoil it for people who come see you later. You have a joke in there about a famous thing that Morrison is known for. Do we just want to tell people?
Well, I do that all the time.
Oh, you do? You
Yeah.
joke like apologizing to the audience for not exposing yourself. I wanted to, but the local manager.
He
said-
actually did it. He did that. I have a live show. I can't remember what show it is, but he actually did say, "You will not be." He just said that line. So it's one of those ones of trying to take it, and then since I do it all the time, I like to add due to the totalitarian regime here at the facility, and then it always kind of gets the same reaction, and that kind of leads into the longer Riders in the Storm.
Right, exactly, and it's cool because it shows people the history. You're not just mimicking one aspect of it. You're
Right.
encompassing all of it. You're pretending like you were Jim and you had that experience and you're commenting on it. It adds to the character. It's great. In other words, you're not Jim during the songs and then Jason and then Jim and then Jason.
Yeah, we try to make a cohesive experience. I mean, we try to hold it together.
We don't even say he doesn't introduce us as our
Yeah.
real names. He
Right.
calls our Mike Ray because our thing is, again, we're a play.
Yeah.
We're not doing this for our egos. It's trying to make you think we're someone else. So
I heard people at a neighboring table when you guys come out go, "Oh, there's Ray." That's what they said. When he walked past, they go, "There's Ray."
Yeah, I mean, we don't. I mean, I guess the thing that for me is, I've said it a million times. Some musicians might not like the tribute scene. They might think that it's
go write some original music.
we write some do original music or whatever. But where I come from is that we don't do it for the money. This isn't like, hey, let's go make a bunch of money. This is literally, we are fans of the music, and I feel that on occasion that we're like Jehovah's Witnesses. We're coming to your house. We're gonna give you some information, and we hope
Converts.
that you keep it and you don't just toss it in the
Oh,
garbage.
dude, if somebody knocked on my door and they were trying to get me interested in the Doors instead of a Jehovah's Witness, come on in, brother. Finally, something I
But
want to hear
this
about.
far after they have not been. I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, the Doors are on the radio every day." Yeah, but Light My Fire is on every day, or Break On Through. There's so many great songs. I mean,
you're not you're getting the song, but with you guys, you're getting a concert, and you're getting extras.
And the videos are amazing. I've watched all the videos a million times and all the loops, but it's like,
change.
It doesn't change, and those are always going to be there. So it's like I think we see it really honestly as just a way to get together with other Doors fans and people who are interested in the Doors and have like a group kind of function where we...
The two best things we hear from people, older people say, I saw the Doors in '68 and you brought tears to my eyes.
Oh, there you go.
That's one. And another one is young people say, I never thought I'd see the Doors. Now I kind of feel like I did.
Yeah. You're right. If you do the squinting eye thing, you can kind of pretend it is. I didn't really want to do that. I knew it was you guys.
Right.
But I was more paying attention to the instruments you're using. In fact, Riders on the Storm, which is the next one you did, I already commented that I respected the way he played the the parts but when it came to the solo, he didn't do a note for, he played what he felt, and it was cool, it worked. And that's the one where I really noticed your ability to capture Krieger's sound on Riders of the Storm. I was like going to note to self. This dude knows what he's doing. And kind of similar to what I talked to Jason about, people expect Morrison to say and do certain things, and if you do say or do the wrong thing, you'll lose the Morrison image. Kind of the same with Robbie. I mean, if you started doing Eddie Van Halen hammer-ons, they're going to go, that's not Robbie Krieger. So, do you ever feel like, and there again, the nice thing about him is he did some unconventional stuff. I mean, even the way he approached Light My Fire, that like, a lot of the different things he did were kind of idiosyncratic. So it can kind of be fun to play his stuff without getting bored.
Well, that's what you do. You have to put your ego away and realize you're recreating something else. And the strong point is getting rid of you.
Yeah.
And being that person. But a lot of guys can't, because I've seen that in Doors tribute where the guy goes to the solo and he starts doing two hands. It's like, no.
Like you said, don't half-ass it,
Yeah.
And even if you're not trying to go for the look, if all you're doing is a sound, boy, you better do the sound. Otherwise, just some party band or something.
Right.
Well, after that, I mean, you guys really went deep. I Will Never Be Untrue. I mean, I knew what it was without a safety net, but some people might not. Roadhouse Blues, there's a crowd pleaser. In fact, the yellow drum thing, if that was the opener those guys opened with. I still remember all these years later they came out and opened with Roadhouse Blues.
Right.
You Make Me Real, another deeper cut. And that's the one where I noticed your wah pedal, interesting use of it. Peace Frog, Gloria, that was like a big hit of the night, a lot of audience participation and everybody jumped right in. The departures from the greatest hits are cool, but it's if you don't play, me personally, I think it would be awesome if I went to a show and you guys just play Yes, the River Knows and the whole show is the deep cuts. But no, I mean, people don't want that. They want to hear hits too. But I always wanted the same thing if McCartney, let's say, came and did a show where he just did all like deep cuts, no Hey Jude, no Let It Be. A certain group of people go, oh, this is amazing. But he is a guy who has casual fans.
Well, I think you have to be cognizant of the venue. I mean, casinos, people were calling out for the end and when the music's over last night, but that's just not what people at a casino on the whole. I mean, we play those songs, we play all, but you got to be kind of cognizant to the idea that we're at a casino, this is a fun thing. You don't want to send people to, take a dive off the 8th floor,
We learned the hard way, because in the beginning we wanted to do all the deep stuff and we were more about that. And then you go to throw one in and you realize people are heading to the bathroom. Like, I guess we have to do.
So what you saw last night was kind of like, it's like a mutual agreement between some deep stuff. Yeah. So people can play like you said, like a Pokemon Go. They can find, that's without, that's I'll Never Be Untrue. But the people who are not huge fans, they're getting something that deep fans are getting, but not necessarily knowing it.
I thought you balanced it perfectly.
Thank you.
It wasn't like you only did one. You scattered it, and like I said, that one you went really deep. I'll Never Be Untrue. Right. Almost like if you did like Bird of Prey or something. That's a small group would get it. And if people are really steady up, there's recordings of him singing things like Love Me Tender. If you really want to do that. Okay, Love Her Madly, you guys did. The Changeling, one of my favorite ones. I got to bust you on this, though, man. I saw you use a pick on that.
You know what? It's funny. I keep a pick, and I always say one song a night. If I want, I can use a pick. And I always end up going with that song.
You got to keep up, man. It's so funky. Yeah. I was looking, I looked really close. Is he holding a pick? Busting you out. That's okay. Then you did a nice thing after that. You guys referenced Ray Manzarek's passing. You guys, Jim Morrison is long gone, but Ray is not. And he was, I've been doing this longer than prior to that. I do have a list of people I didn't get to in time, and he was on that list, and I would like to talk to him. I may still talk to Robbie or John or what have you, but I can't talk to him. You guys dedicated Crystal Ship to him. And again, your break on through, you did after that. You did the Dead Cats, Dead Rats, you know, you can tell I know the Doors, right? I mean, I was a sophomore, and I can't tell you the first time I heard them, the very first time I ever heard their music, but I can tell you when I got into them. And mainly my friend Larry was into them, and I just like, it didn't take much coaxing. I was already a musician at the time. I go, oh, there's a lot happening here. The music's great. Might have been Riders on the Storm. It doesn't really matter, but you know, when I get into anything, I get in thoroughly.
Right.
And they're one of those ones. It's rewarding to study up on because they make those lyrical references. Does it refer to Greek mythology? Is it just something he threw together because it sounded cool? A cobra and a leopard, and
right.
you know, and there's always like little Easter eggs to find it. To use the word of the day, the Pokemon Go, which will probably come and go before this even airs. But yeah, as I already said, you know, a couple times I mentioned the Beatlemania thing earlier. I saw a lot of people doing that, closing their eyes. Does this sound like the Beatles? But yeah, I mean, particularly because of your voice, and it sounded like a live. It was mixed. It was balanced live. You could tell you were in a live thing. It didn't sound studio, but why would it? But I was thinking, yeah, man, you could fool somebody. This and in Backdoor Man, we already heard, and what we have coming up, it might fool somebody. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah, you did have the female heckler at this point. She was yelling for you to take off your shirt.
Yeah.
and you handled it. But if that ever comes up again, man, you know what I would have said? I would have said, all right,
Take off
you first.
Oh, that's an idea. She might have done it,
That's
though.
the problem. She goes, all right. Ba-da-da. Yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't turn to see her. I don't know if it would have been, 64-year-old Tatas or.
No, she was young. I saw her afterwards. She met me by the slot machines.
Oh yeah, nice.
But no, seriously, it wasn't a joke. That shirt doesn't come off.
Yeah,
it zips from behind. Yeah, I have to like slink out of it. It's actually a vintage shirt from the '60s, and
yeah, well, people shouldn't heckle, even in good fun, and even to try and be funny, or it can throw you guys off. I mean, you said you can handle it.
Yeah.
And it happened at door shows.
It happens a lot with us.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't yell out a song suggestion. I wouldn't.
It's usually not mean. It's
Right.
usually something fun because they see I think they see like that we're willing to go there, and I think but yeah, there's a lot of people that call out song suggestions. We can play pretty much everything, but we don't do it sometimes just because if you do that, you're alienating 90% of the crowd to appease one guy who yelled out.
What you do is you need to just bill it as audience request night. Hit the stage.
Spin the wheel.
Have somebody come out and say, "What do you guys want to hear them play first?" Show of hands, right? And they pick your opener. Come out and then just.
Do you remember there was a tour like that? Elvis Costello had a big wheel.
Yeah.
And he'd call people up from the audience and they'd spin the wheel, and whatever song it came out, that's what song they had to play.
There's ways to
having
do
to
it.
be
But like you
rehearsed.
said, you guys want to be in control.
Yeah.
But still, that would be the way to handle it. Go, look, week from Thursday, we're gonna do request.
I mean, he'll tell you that we don't just like throw a set together like, oh, this is the set. Like we converse about every set for every show to make sure.
And we never just have a set list that we take everywhere. We do. We never. That's
like
boring
tonight.
to
There'll be
us.
different songs.
The order will be
know.
different. There'll be songs taken out and thrown
I was
in.
gonna ask you about that because conceivably, some people who went last night might go again tonight.
Yeah.
Well, this happened at this very venue. There's a guy who went last night who a year ago came, and he said he's coming the next night. So purposely for him, we put some stuff in, and he came up afterwards going, "Oh my God, you can't believe!" And we took what he said the night before. Oh wow, you did Peace Frog, but I would have liked to hear Blue Sunday. We didn't say we'll do it tomorrow. We just didn't say it, but the next night we did.
Oh, he felt special.
So he was
to hear
like,
that.
"Oh my God!"
Yeah, I've done that before. I've made people when they're in the studio or when they're writing. I made a suggestion, and then 6 months later, when I hear the recording, I hear, "Oh yeah, I told them he was saying the wrong thing, or maybe you should make that bridge half lane." And then they did it, and you think, "Oh yeah," you feel a little ownership to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're 3 more tunes. Well, 2 more tunes in your encore. You did "Light My Fire," and you did your maracas and tambourine, which is true, and "Wandered Around," which is true to him. I mean, just like keep bringing up the Beatles. Back when they played Hamburg, they had to stretch the whole night, so they had to learn everything they could possibly play. Doors, it was kind of like, we don't have a lot of stuff, and then they did like the long instrumental sections and came out for practical logistical reasons. And like you said, Jim sings. In fact, I have an acapella of his vocals from that. You hear him sing, you hear him double track the chorus, and he just kind of under his breath like he kind of comments on the solo, then back into the song again. And that's like you said, the Doors were a band. I mean, it wasn't just like a really charismatic singer with a bunch of hacks. I mean, people who know drums respect John Densmore. People respect Robbie for his originality and his songwriting. He wrote some of their best stuff, amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And Ray, I mean, some people are kind of split on Ray. I always dug him. I always dug his style. And then, L.A. Woman, as I watched that, I thought, because my tabletop drummer took off on that. Because he stop it! But I mean, if I was you guys auditioning a drummer, I'd probably say, look, you can make it through this one because of the rhythm.
It's one of the ones.
That's one of the ones
we pick 5 songs to give a drummer, and that's always one of them.
You can make it through this one, and not. So basically, you guys almost immediately came back out for an encore, which was Soul Kitchen, which they've done themselves. Sorry to go. Clock says it's time to go, and everything. Logical, and we already just talked about it. I was going to ask you about the back-to-back shows, and at what point you decide on the set list, and and I didn't really see written set lists around. So I mean, how do you guys know what to play next when you do change it up? I mean, does anybody go into the wrong song? You go,
No, he'll call them out every once in a while. We usually do have sets. But...
After years of doing this, I can watch the clock on a stage and steer us to being perfect for the club. So
you guys came on right at 7 and you finished right at 9:30.
And you'll see on stage, depending on the time, I'll go over to everyone and say, short Light My Fire.
Yeah, like last night we usually do a longer version of Light My Fire with some included nuggets in there, but last night because of the time we had to do the shorter. So
it's cool though because I like the fact that you guys did You Make Me Real and The Changeling and stuff like that, and I knew you had to do the hits, but there's nothing. I mean, I'm not listening to that music every day, so I've heard those tunes plenty of times in my life, but I haven't heard them performed by you guys.
Right.
And I'm not sitting there nitpicking. Oh, they got that wrong. I'm just taking in the experience like any fan would, and you guys are keep kissing your butt. But you guys are definitely a cut above. I mean,
thank you.
I mean, you guys are. I don't see how anybody could be disappointed on any level. The choice of material, the vocals, all the instruments, the flow, the banter, all of it. There were no weaknesses, man.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
But what I want to ask you guys is you mentioned knowing all their stuff. What has been the most challenging to sing or to play?
We did a show where we did the whole celebration of the lizard. That
would be challenging.
That was challenging.
That would be challenging.
We've done a show where we've done albums. We do a show where we do 3 1-hour sets, and every time we try to change it up. So one time we did the Strange Days album, the Morrison Hotel album, and the L.A. Woman album. Mm-hmm. So that was...
Yeah, get into some La America and stuff like that. Hyacinth House and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, never mind the most challenging. Do you have any personal favorites that you like to perform? I'll never get tired of playing this one. Anything?
I love playing When the Music's Over. We don't do it a lot because it's not one of the hit show songs, but I like playing that
Might
song
be my favorite Doors song.
I like that song a lot to play.
An amazing thing about that one, according to the legend, is they did the music track when Jim wasn't there. They'd done it enough times that they knew. So all the reaction to the vocals, singing it in his head.
Right.
John Densmore was. Jim came in another day and did the vocal on that. So it isn't exactly perfect, but more perfect than... And apparently what happened is somebody, probably at the Whiskey, had said something about, okay, when the music's over, turn out the lights. And, it's just commenting on the fact and somebody had an ear for it. He said, when the music's over, turn out the light. I like that.
Another one is The Changeling. I like playing The Changeling.
Yeah, that's a groover one.
Barnstorming tune.
And this is what I'm talking about. You're talking about things sounding dated. That sounds fresh, man. That track sounds fresh today. I mean, I'd be happy to write that today.
Right.
It's kick ass. Yeah. Favorites, Jason?
Well, I mean, it sounds cliche, but I love doing Light My Fire.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something about that song. It's just so, just to see everyone's faces, and just the experience of that song and the 2 long solos, Ray and Robbie really stretch out on those. That's fun. And for me, my favorite normal song or hit song, we do a pretty rousing Black Train song.
Okay.
And I love that because those 1970s live shows, when Jim was into it, he was all into it, and I just love the energy in that song. So we do that often, and as long as I can do it without it being something that the crowd's like, what's this? You gotta pick your place.
But that's interesting. Even if they are going, what's this? They know it has to be something. It gives them an incentive to go find out what it is.
Yeah.
Because it ain't something you guys just pulled out of. It isn't a Foreigner song. I mean, there's got to be some reason it's there. Okay, now if you guys did the Soft Parade album, okay, Robbie's got some vocals on that. I mean, he does his hillbilly, his square dance caller thing. So, did you have to step up and do that?
We haven't yet. No, we haven't yet, have we?
No, we haven't done that song.
But we could anytime.
Okay, so you did Soft Parade, but you didn't necessarily do every single track.
Oh, no, that's not one of the ones we did in full. We did Morrison Hotel,
okay,
LA
that's what I
Woman,
meant.
and Strange
When
Days
I said you
album.
guys did Soft Parade,
Oh, yeah, no, that album we haven't.
Oh, yeah, not the whole...
We actually have a crazy idea, which would be pretty ambitious, is to go to a school, find some woodwind and string players, and get a leader to be willing to transpose all that stuff out and actually do a live show of that album in its entirety with the added players. So you've got string section on one side, woodwinds on the.
We do that song. We do that one.
But with the
the real section. I mean, I think, and that's I know it's when people look at their albums, a lot of people think Soft Parade might be the numbers, the last one on that on the list. But I personally, I like that album, and I think it was the last Doors album that I ever listened to or I bought, and I remember after listening to it thinking, wow, this is different. It was different, and it was an ambitious thing, and I still listen to that and love a lot of it. Wishful Sinful. I mean, I love a lot of those songs.
In retrospect, everything's different. Everything seems great, but I'm saying at the time, as in stuff when I was doing my recap at the time, picked up some fans, lost. It happens with everybody. I mean,
Sure.
I remember famously, guys, I keep bringing up the Beatles, but they're a good example. Dick Clark showed the little movie of Strawberry Fields Forever.
And people freaked out.
They're like. The thing was really funny about it is the little girls they look weird. They have mustaches, and I don't like this song. And this one guy goes, I thought it was great. I think he just thought it was like, oh, this is such a great evolution. But
a perfect example is Dylan. Look at going from a folk guy to electric. People are angry.
Pitchforks. They were like coming
angry.
After him. But one thing I wanted to say about this tribute band thing is, you would think that one of the key things would be like in your case. There's no other way to see the Doors. Jim's gone, now Ray's gone. You would think that would be a criteria, but Journey, Judas Priest, and Yes have all plucked band members from tribute bands. I mean, Judas Priest needed a lead singer. Well, there was an ongoing Judas Priest thing going on. Journey, that's a famous one. It's a Filipino dude. He sounded just like Steve Perry. Yes, like the guy who's in the band now, was in a tribute. So I'm not saying join a tribute because you're going to join Yes later, but that was an element, that I hadn't really. It makes sense because that guy knows the material. That guy has inhabited that character. Now, I don't think they necessarily want that guy to come in and pretend to be John Anderson, but he has the voice and stuff. One thing I wanted to ask you guys about is, you guys are acknowledging the fact that you're a tribute act, but there's versions of the Temptations and the Four Tops. They're trying to say we are the Temptations, we are the Four Tops, because there's some bank in that. But as a practical matter, I mean, at best they might have one original member left, but really they're just like another generation.
As a sound guy, I work with a lot of those bands that would give me flack for being in a tribute band. And I turned around, I used to work with the English
the hell
Beat.
Are you guys?
And I said, you're a tribute band. He's the only real guy. You're all tribute guys. So.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm wondering, if there's some attitude. There's like, we're the Miracles, because maybe you get paid more if you say you're really the Temptations, but...
There's even supposedly a Steppenwolf going around that has no members of Steppenwolf.
Call yourself a tribute to Steppenwolf. Don't pretend you're Steppenwolf. Yeah. The one I got to mention is Leonard Skinner, because, after the plane crash, there was a Rossington Collins band. They didn't want to call themselves Skinner. Then there was this or that. And finally, I guess I wasn't following it at the time, Ronnie Van Zant's brother, I guess his name is Johnny, they decided to just call it Leonard Skinner again. And I thought, I can't get behind that because it isn't Leonard Skinner, Maybe one of them is a blood relative, but being a blood relative ain't the same as, I don't want to pick on Skinner, and anybody who went and saw them and enjoyed it, that's great, more power to it. I would call it a tribute to Leonard Skinner. I wouldn't call it Leonard Skinner, not with so many key guys not there. But, what I'm wondering is, if you guys have ever encountered any fans who have difficulty separating the illusion from the reality, who want to treat you like you are Jim Morrison, or just want to believe that you are Jim Morrison, and have kind of weirded you out.
The thing that's the most disconcerting is there'll be these people that buy loads of drinks, and they expect you to drink like tremendous amounts, and the vibe. Look, I like to drink, but they want you to drink like 7 double whiskeys, and
they want to see Jim. Right,
they want
to
see Jim, but that's not the version of Jim that I like to.
I mentioned earlier about being professional. You guys can't deliver a professional show if you just...
Well, and one guy walked up one time and said, I just did it to see how many you would drink. And I'm like, that's kind of cold-blooded, man. Like,
Yeah.
that's a little experiment. That's a little
Yeah.
little rough. But there's that.
Exactly.
But there's little things that happen that make me kind of smile and trip out. Like, we played Mexico at Tijuana a few years ago, and when I was like going to the elevator to go back up to the room, there's these little Jeem, these little girls that came out from like and I'm just like, it's kind of it's cool, but it's you know, Jim Morrison's such a legend that I'm sure there are people probably listening thinking, you know, it's impossible to even try to be, you know, it's you're setting yourself up for a lot of negativity. I personally don't. I like to come across as I'm just a huge fan, and we want to give an experience, and I want to put as much of it as I can into it. But I think, for the most part, people are they're willing after the first, you know, at the beginning, like, oh, you know, he doesn't look just like him or whatever. But I think after the music starts, I think, you know, you're willing to come in and
You look close enough.
Thanks.
I mean, you know, and then how can you really control that?
Right.
You know?
yeah.
I mean, really, Bob looks a little more like John Densmore than Robbie Krieger in the face, a little bit. But, you know, it depends, you know. Morrison is probably the most important one because he was kind of the poster boy for the band. Yeah, it was a band. But, I mean, even look at the early artwork. I mean, he had a giant Morrison head and the other faces, some of the other band. It's so common. I mean, in the band, no doubt, I think, you know, Gwen Stefani was grabbed by the fans and they considered her the big thing. And or Sade, she tried to say, well, the band is called Sade. But come on, you used your own name as the band name. You're the face everybody sees in the videos. So it can be confusing to people.
Yeah.
And other people, like, I don't, you know, as long as we all get paid the same, I don't care whether, you know, there's a lot of different takes on it. There's always jealousies. I mean, I saw some documentary about the band Genesis, you know. And Tony Banks.
I watched that too.
Tony Banks used to seem like grouchy about everything. He's a great keyboard player and everything. But
He's nuts too. He says that they're better later. I'm sorry. The original early
I
stuff
call
was
I call
epic.
BS on that too.
Yeah.
The Gabriel stuff's amazing.
We're all
He learned how to be a
Stage.
pop writer later, but he was an epic writer.
it was
early.
like two different bands. It was
Yeah,
like, you know,
exactly.
the Beatles when they were self-contained doing I Want to Hold Your Hand. Then when they were doing Abbey Road, it's like two different bands. Genesis in their early progressive phase, and then the pop hits later is like two different bands.
Exactly.
If they want to do it, it's their own thing. But yeah, you know, don't try and tell people who are fans of Selling England by the Pound that some of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I do want to mention to everybody that there's a lot of good video content of you guys on YouTube if they want to get a sense for you. And, you know, there's other people doing tributes to the Doors, but I mean, Robbie Krieger sits in with you guys. There's a picture on your website of John Densmore hanging out with you. So you seem to be the one that they've anointed the band. By the way, when Krieger sits in, are you ever tempted to just like call it an early night? Say, later, guys. Take it, Robbie. Finish the show. I'm going to go home and watch Game of Thrones.
No, I love staying and watching and tripping
Oh.
out. That wow, they're playing with him. Trip out on this.
Well, also, I mean, have you ever asked him about any parts to say how to play something or...
Early on, when I was before this band, he once said, "If you want any like pointers or anything, you know, just give me a call." Let me
Yeah.
know. But I worked with him for 5 years, so I
Right.
watched him all the time.
You know, we're
so
going to get to that. I mean,
kinda
this is
got
what
a
I'm saying
feel.
is, you know, there's several reasons why you guys are maybe a cut above, but if the band members themselves have recognized it, I mean, that's kind of like, what more of a... That's worth like 50,000 thumbs up from Middle America.
Yeah,
Right.
I think one of the highlights of my life was one of the shows. Robbie played like 15 songs, like a whole show with us, like
Yeah.
15 song set, and at the end we played the end,
Yeah.
and I mean that's it, man.
Yeah.
You could have struck me dead right there, and I've been like, all
Imagine
right.
when you were that young Doors fan thinking, oh, someday
I'm gonna stand right next
I'm
to
gonna go
Robbie.
play with Robbie Krieger all this. Yeah,
I mean, I was the guy that would
mind-blowing.
be like, in 1990, I'd be the guy that's like, "Can I get your autograph?" You know, like right on him, right outside.
Right.
He's like, "Can I put my guitar down? Relax,"
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So it's like, yeah, it was just one of those moments where I'm just, it's nice that he would come out and give his time to hang out with fans.
Well, you know, it's nostalgic for him too, and if he sees a keyboard player, a drummer, and a singer.
Well, he's still doing it too. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
like
oh, yeah.
to everybody out there, like,
Yeah.
go look up Robbie's playing with Phil Chen, and then with Robbie's son Waylon. They're out there playing, and I mean, go see him. He kills.
Well, shout out to one of our listeners, Bob Wilson in Nassau County, New York. He interviewed, I think Robbie, but he interviewed his son, very detailed, and was mentioning it to me. Hey, Dan, and I said, hey, believe me, Doors are on my radar. Whenever as far as I'll get into Phil Chen in a second. You want to say something?
I was just saying, when he played with us, he looked at my costume and he goes, I never wore anything like that. And I'm like, yeah, you did. I'm like, look. And he's like, oh. He's like, I never wore that.
That's what happens, man.
Trust me, you
Sometimes-
did. You were a hippie once.
Yeah. That's great, man. That's awesome. I know you better than you know yourself. You know, one thing that's kind of funny I was going to mention, because you guys, we talked about you being professional and everything, but, you know, notoriously, the Doors didn't always bring the magic. They had some epic off nights. I mean, sometimes Morrison wouldn't even be there and Ray would be singing. And so my thought was, you know, if you guys ever have an off night, you can just say you're tributing that. You say, you know, we're being completists of the Doors
Well,
legacy.
we tried a lot of things, and you know, every once in a while I would try to throw a little Miami, you're all a bunch of slaves thing, and you know, then I realized, wait a minute, this is like not an auditorium, this is a bar, and they can get to me.
Yeah.
So I got to be careful, man. Someone to throw a beer bottle at me in
The
the
other
face.
thing about
so.
the tribute scene, I think, is because I'm a big music fan. I have a lot of bootlegs of a lot of my favorite bands. Is the tribute scene is capturing a band on their greatest night and then giving it to you every night.
That's a great point. Yeah.
That's like Led Zeppelin. They had amazing amounts of horrible nights. So in a weird way, a tribute band's actually got to be better because you don't have the star power to have an off night and be like, let go.
Right.
You got to be the shit every time.
Yeah, and you articulated what I was thinking. Yeah, that's true. Because people are they don't want, you know, they don't want to come and see a guitar string break, or, you know.
I mean, I'm a big Jimmy Page fan, and I've got so many bootlegs, but I cut him slack because he's a big star. But no one's going to cut me slack if I don't play well.
We're an I mean, I see it as we are an advertisement for for the Doors. We are an advertisement, and I've had people come up to me and say, "Oh, it's not an authentic show because, you know, it's not ragged." You know, to some extent.
We
And
once played with a band that opened for us, and the bass player said, "Man, you guys are great. You're too tight, though. That's part of the beauty of the Doors is they're ragged.
I mean, look, I'd
You
love to
guys
come
are too
out.
tight."
I'd love to come out and do 3 songs and then just lay on the stage, and then this show's over. But there's not going to be an entertainment value.
That is a weak criticism.
You know what I mean?
You guys are too good. You sound too much like him. You're too tight.
You're too tight.
You guys need to suck more.
I mean, you know, it's just one of those things where,
Well, it's
like,
true they were ragged, but that doesn't mean you want to deliver that. That's not
Right.
the element people want to remember.
I mean, I think from a perspective of, like, in a sociological way, it's nice to look back and say, like, the pressures that were on him and the way that those shows, some were hit, some were missed, a lot of things weighing down on the band and on him, but that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility really is to say, if you used to love the Doors, go look them up again, you know, go buy a few songs, go get deeper.
It's like a reminder.
If you love the Doors and you have always loved the Doors, keep loving the Doors and keep getting deeper. And
You're not a replacement for them. You're like a proselytizer.
yeah, just trying to keep it, you know, and going and moving. And, you know, Robbie's still out there doing this. And I would, once again, I have last year, I wanted to go see Jerry Lee Lewis.
Yeah.
I had never seen him.
The
And I
killer.
wanted to see him, and he's the last one left. And the show didn't happen. I think he canceled it or whatever.
He's got to be pushing 90.
He's getting close, and I will always regret not seeing that. But I would say, like, you know, playing with Robbie's amazing, but I've watched Robbie multiple times, and just watching that is just, it's great that he's still out there and he's giving it. So we're not trying to, we're like subsidized, you know, in a way. We're just fans trying to hopefully push people towards
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say you guys are more than fans, because you put a lot of work into what you do. You put a lot of time into what you do. And whether you do it for the money or not, I mean, you're paid for what you do, but like, so you're not going to get rich doing it. But yeah, it's a labor of love for you guys. But I mean, you really, as I said before, I can't think of any area you guys didn't put thought into. Like you said, to building the keys that look right, but physically do what you need. Your tech specifications, and, like, you know, you guys are on the job. I mean, I would imagine somebody who works 20 tribute bands come through, they're going to remember the dudes who are on it and the dudes who didn't show up, or they go, oh, you don't have a PA. You know what I mean? You know, I'm sure they see the gamut.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've talked a whole lot about the Doors, but I know you guys have lives outside the Doors. I know that you guys, you know, didn't just come out of the womb impersonating the Doors. So I'm going to start with Bob. You mentioned working as a sound engineer. I'm getting this off the bios on your website. You've engineered for Bush, Berlin, the Motels, the Cranberries, Concrete Blonde, Lita Ford's, Steel Pulse. I'm sure there's other ones. But you actually worked with Ray and Robbie with the Doors of the 21st Century, like about 4 years? And you weren't meant to be in the band, but Robbie wasn't able to play one time. You did a whole show in Barcelona.
Yeah, we were 5 years into doing the gigs, and we were on a 9-date run, the last show being Barcelona, and Robbie got food poisoning. So we were already like a crew band. After we'd do sound check, we'd all jump up on stage and play, and the manager would kid with me, "Oh, Robbie hurt his hand, you're playing."
Yeah.
On this night, he took me aside and he said, "Robbie's really sick, can you do this?"
A lot of guys have gotten gigs that way, man. I mean, in pretty big bands. A roadie or a guitar tech guy. You know all the tunes, man. We need to get.
Well, John Tempesta, he's the drummer for the Cult now.
Mm-hmm.
He used to be the drum tech for Anthrax.
Yeah.
And when they needed a new drummer, it was like, "You're the guy."
And we ended up talking about the Doors again. But the other thing that I always think of too is the Who, that famous time where they asked the audience, "Anybody know how to play the drums?"
I have that bootleg. It's
the
Cow Palace.
Cow Palace in San Francisco. It's like
Francisco.
Keith Moon had like taken some elephant tranquilizers.
And
He was like,
And Pete Townsend, "Is there a drummer in the house?"
and, but don't mess with us. You really have
And
to.
some guy
Dude,
came
come
up,
up.
yeah.
He finished the gig
Bob
for him.
O'Reilly.
Yeah, I forgot the guy's name. He's since passed away. I wanted to interview him on the show. What was that like?
Wow.
Going to a Who show and ended up in the gig. Amazing. But so you got a performance and composition degree at Musicians Institute. Was it GIT at the time?
Yeah, GIT.
What years were you there? So are you originally from Southern Cal?
84, 85 was the school. And I was born in New York, but my family moved to LA when I was 3, so I'm from LA.
Same difference.
Yeah.
But, apart from music, do you have any hobbies or activities totally unrelated to all this?
Hobbies everything's revolves around music.
That's
with
common.
Me.
I mean, you're not like some kick-ass chef or something.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
All music all the time.
So, Jason, you got a film and television production degree. You've written and directed films. Coincidental passion of Jim Morrison as well, films. You write original music. And I hear all about that because, Jim Morrison famously didn't... he plunked on some piano chords one time, but he wasn't really a player. So when you do Strange Days, you have a knowledge of what your keyboard player and guitar player are doing that he certainly never had. So let's start with the film stuff.
Well, I there are 2 independent things that I did under, one documentary and one narrative film. I'm trying to negotiate now with getting the documentary on Netflix,
Nice.
like streaming. But it was my passion. I lived it for a lot of years. After I graduated, I came to LA and tried to make the film thing happen. And it didn't happen, but I got into the DVD craze in the late 90s and started authoring, programming DVDs, and that went into programming Blu-rays. And then now I do quality control contract work for some streaming services. So it's still film. It's not really... I still am working on my own things, but, mostly shorts and things that don't require a massive crew.
Have you ever done a short about a hitchhiker?
No, I haven't done that one yet. That was done already.
Yeah, sure
That was done.
And what about non-entertainment related interests? Is it all film and music for you? Bow hunter?
No, I play a fair amount of tennis and soccer. Get out there and, but pretty much, movies for me is like that's the downfall.
And so were you a California guy then?
Yeah, I was born in San Jose, up north by San Francisco, and went to San Diego State, and then went to LA. Yeah, I've just been based, California, born and bred.
And as I alluded to earlier, towards the end of last night's gig, you made this comment about, one reason to play the Doors music is because it's good. You made a comment about the sad state of modern popular music. I think I can safely say it's gotten pretty bad. And as people keep pointing out, you'll have these ridiculous repetitive choruses. You'll have 6 songwriters and 5 producers. Some of that might be a money thing, but you're wondering, why did it take 6 guys to write that Justin Bieber song?
I have a new term for new music. It's electronic Fisher-Price music.
Yeah.
It's like as elementary as can be. It's terrible.
Well, it's funny how prophetic Jim was back in the day with his statement about, I can see somebody with a person with a bunch of machines, tape machines creating symphonies or creating massive amounts of music. And I don't think there's portions of that. I think there's a place for that. But I think in the old days, like a David Cassidy, he was there and he was a very he was set up by the media and the magazines to be this big pop star. But I think nowadays it's flipped on its head. Now there's a lot of David Cassidys and not so many of the real musicians being touted as worthy of your dollars and time. And
yeah, because a lot of the big companies that that have the money, the ones that are left, they want to invest in Taylor Swift or something like that because they think they can make their money back out of it. And they like controversy. They like Kanye West Kardashian stuff because it gets attention. But it isn't about quality.
I'm not attacking. I mean, that statement's not attacking modern music, but what it's saying is it's saying, I just want more from it. I just want more from it. I want more. I mean, I was telling somebody last night after the show that was a Vietnam vet that I was talking to who said, the Doors got him through the war. That's a heavy thing to learn from somebody. And he tells me, he said, back then, it was like, there was things happening every year that were just amazing, like musically and in a society. Think about the last time something, I mean, it just kind of, years just kind of go by now, and there's no definition to any of it. And I think it's kind of sad in a way, I mean, when I'm old, I'm going to say, gee, what was my time was just kind of that time that just was between this time and this time.
Yeah, I kind of hate to say it, but because there was a period of time where I also kind of felt like my generation or American life was mainly about just looking at things other people did, Pearl Harbor and this happened and that, but we were just like consumers and spectators of what did we do. And I kind of hate to say it, but the September 11th attack kind of redefined a lot of things in a totally negative way. It's the age of terrorism now. Yeah. It was like that was my generation's Pearl Harbor. It was like now instead of just having this sort of bland consumer nondescript thing, we have this horrible thing that's in the air. But
they had Vietnam was there and ugly, just as ugly.
Yeah, and they translated into good music.
And it translated into something, and we've got nothing. We get nothing. I mean, I just expect more from
the gradual dumbing down of America.
I mean, every so often I'll say that, and people will boo because they like modern music. Depends on how young the crowd is,
but
right?
I will say this, because on this show, we're on a mission to find and promote quality work. It's there.
Yeah.
It's just you have to go looking for it now. Yeah. It isn't being handed to you. Hey, everybody, there's a big rollout. This is the new Eric Clapton, or this is the new anything. Now you got to just go hunting.
It's so weird now that when I think of the past, it's almost amazing that there was a time where every Tuesday all these amazing records came out, and then the calendar section, Yes is coming on this date. There's no such thing anymore.
Well, there's a documentary. I'm sure you guys know Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
His son Colin Hanks grew up in Sacramento like I did. He just released a documentary about Tower Records.
I bought it. I watched it already.
Oh, it's fascinating. All Things Must Pass.
Yeah.
You've seen
I know, I have to check that out.
Yeah, it's basically, and it has real resonance to me because the original Tower is like in Sacramento. I used to drive past it all the time. I spent many hours and many dollars buying vinyl records and cassette tapes over there. But it starts with the origin of Tower Records and then how they developed and expanded, and it goes into the whole decline of the music
industry. The whole bit about
how
opening early for Elton John, the Sunset store, they'd open at 7 just so he could have the whole store, and Elton John would go there all the time and just buy
his list and just buy up the inventory. But it's interesting on 2 levels. Well, for me, 3 levels. 1, because I have a Sacramento connection, and 2, because of everybody knows what Tower is. But 3, why isn't it around anymore? I think the only place that's around now is Japan.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting on many levels. But yeah, like a lot of the musical people bemoan the fact. I mean, it was a community, it was a destination. It was like one of my favorite places to go. I would walk in there and it'd be full of what I love, albums, music. And like they say in the documentary, the guy at Tower said people are always going to want a physical collection, whether it's albums or CDs, no problem. Their problem was they expanded into all these crazy countries and overspent and borrowed, and then it's just kind of collapsed because a new generation come up who didn't want a physical product.
That's the sad part. Because I always felt that too. I'll always want the physical collection, and people don't care about that anymore. The whole romantic side of the artwork is gone. The whole idea is that it's tiny. That record. It's like...
And we're not the only people who feel this way. I mean, the demographic of this show is, in my age and older, and, we make do. One of the nice things about this show is I've done a lot of new release stuff this year, and it's good stuff. I did 4 or 5 of them. Rusty Anderson from Paul McCartney's band. I'm trying to find a time when we can do it. He's got a great new album. Nicholas David, soul singer out of Minnesota, has a great album. Chris Robley in Maine has a great album. John Harrington from Steely Dan, Don Breitup. I've been playing tracks from their new stuff. It's great. It's well written, well recorded. But yeah, mainstream isn't going to touch it, and they can only do so much promoting themselves. There's a lot of gigging that goes on. And a lot of word of mouth. The nice thing is if somebody comes across something they like, they can spread it. Like when people find my podcast and they like it, Dan's got this cool show. You never believe this interview. So, you can't really plan on it. You have to, like I do what you guys do. I do it because I love it. I don't do a lot of promotion. I just hope, a grassroots thing happens.
And is your podcast on iTunes, like if I want to find it?
Yeah, you can subscribe to it on iTunes. Every episode I've ever done is there. And that's one thing that's cool about podcasting. In the past, if we were doing this old school terrestrial radio, joining me in the studio, Jason and Bob, whoever missed it, unless somebody cassetted it, is gone forever.
That's all
People will discover this conversation we're having right now, 11 years from now. So there's that.
That's awesome and scary all at the same time.
Well, cool. Unless you guys have something you want to add, I'm going to get to websites.
No, well, thank you for everything. Thanks for having us.
StrangeDaysTribute.com. Is that right? StrangeDaysTribute.com. You're also on Facebook. What you want to do is check out the tour schedule, everybody. See if they're coming to you. I'll go ahead and say it. If they're not, you might want to come to them. You guys play Vegas, Southern Cal, Arizona, destination type places. Because as I've said before, I'll say it again. If you always wanted to see the Doors live, this is literally as close as you're going to get. I mean, they come with my personal guarantee, my highest recommendation. So, gentlemen, on behalf of my listeners and myself, I want to thank you for taking the time to drop by the studio and share your stories and experiences with us. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
This podcast was recorded at Big Bug Sound in Phoenix, Arizona. It was engineered by Robert Lang. Well, we opened this with a Strange Days version of a song from the Doors' first album, so it seems appropriate to exit with their version of a song from, technically, maybe not technically, but I'm going to call it the Doors' final album. So thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Time.